All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 28th Planning Board meeting. Everybody, please join me in the silent prayer, followed by the oath of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided indicating the time and place of the meeting in accordance with the Chapter 231 of the Public Laws, 1975, by advertising notice in the Star Ledger, as well as the express times, and by posting a copy on the bulletin board in the municipal building. So the first order of business we have here is some appointing and reappointing. Up first, Robin George, Class 1.
Ms. George, I'm going to have you stand, and I'm going to have Mr. Weeks stand as well. I'm going to administer the oath, so you don't have to fully repeat it. And you're just going to have to affirm when I'm done. You swear or affirm that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and to the governments established in the United States and in this state, under the authority of the people, and that you will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the office of a planning board member or an alternate member of the planning board to the best of your ability, so help you God.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
So if you will, on the right-hand side down the bottom, there's a spot for you to sign on the top line, put your address in, and then if you want to give your oath over to Mr. Bryce, he will notarize them, and then I can
Thank you, Brian.
put them in the file.
Okay, roll call, please.
Yes. Members, Coyle,
Here.
Hartman, Melendez.
Here.
Toledo.
Here.
Coy.
Here.
George.
Here.
Vice Chairman, Chairwoman DeLeo.
Here.
It's always going to be a mountain.
Chair lady.
Chairman Sampson.
Here.
And alternate Brian Weeks.
Here.
So I have one, two. So your vote will count.
Okay, some old business. Has everyone received the minutes July 26th and January 24th? Everybody get that?
Mhm.
Any questions, comments, anything? All right, would somebody like to make a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion.
Somebody like to
I'll
second?
second.
So I'm going to roll call them separately because some were not here in July. Okay, so we're going to go members Coyle, and you'll say yes to both or whichever one you're going to approve, okay?
Okay.
Members Coyle,
Yes to both.
okay. Melendez,
Yes, to January 24th.
okay. Toledo,
Yes to both.
okay. Coy,
Yes to the January 24th.
thank you. Robin, I think you're going to abstain.
Abstain. Yes.
Vice Chairwoman DeLeo.
Yes to both.
Thank you. Chairman Sampson
Yes to both.
and alternate Brian Weeks.
July, staying in January.
Okay.
All right, so up next, we have the resolution to approve the Cubes US 22 Sub 1 LLC, Block 102, lots 901, 903, memorialized amendment to preliminary and final site plan approval. Somebody want to make a motion to approve that?
Make a motion to approve.
And just before there's a second, well, actually, after the second, I'll do the discussion.
I'll second
There's a second.
Roll call?
Well,
No, he's gonna discuss.
I just have to
Okay.
discuss two things. If there's a second.
There has been a second.
Okay. Adam has taken a look at the resolution. He's recommended a few modifications, just to certain numbers in there, probably because my secretary screwed up the dictation of the numbers. They have no material change to it. So I would just say that the resolution is supplied as amended by the board engineer be approved.
So be it.
Okay, I'm gonna roll call that, and it'll only be the members that were here to hear that. So it'll be members Coyle,
Yes.
Melendez,
Yes.
Toledo,
Yes.
Coy,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman DeLeo,
Yes.
Chairman Sampson.
Yes. Okay, next up, we have an honoring for a longtime volunteer, Gary Van Vliet, for his years of service to the Lopatcong Township Planning Board. Would somebody like to make a motion to approve that?
Motion.
I like to be second.
Roll call.
Yes. Members Coyle,
Yes.
Melendez,
Yes.
Toledo,
Yes.
Coy. Yes. George,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman DeLeo,
Yes.
it's getting easier. Chairman Sampson,
Yes.
and alternate Brian Weeks.
Yes.
Should I read that, or
Yes.
does somebody want to read that? I can read it if you want. Want me to read it?
Go ahead.
Okay. Resolution of the Planning Board of the Township of Lopatcong, County of Warren, State of New Jersey, recognizing and honoring Garrett Van Vliet. Whereas Garrett Van Vliet is a longtime resident of the Township of Lopatcong, Warren County, New Jersey. And whereas Garrett Van Vliet was appointed to the Planning Board of Lopatcong Township in 1996. And whereas Garrett Van Vliet was elected by his planning board colleagues to serve as the chairman of the planning board and held that position until his voluntary retirement at the end of 2023. Whereas Garrett Van Vliet faithfully served Lopatcong Township for over 28 years as a volunteer, and whereas Garrett Van Vliet's service contributed greatly to both the welfare and betterment of the residents of Lopatcong Township and the Township of Lopatcong itself. And whereas Garrett Van Vliet has distinguished himself as deserving of recognition and honor for his sacrifice and the quality and longevity of his service to the Township of Lopatcong. Now therefore be it resolved by the Planning Board of the Township of Lopatcong, County of Warren, State of New Jersey, that it hereby recognizes and honors Garrett Van Vliet for his distinguished service to the Township of Lopatcong and expresses its gratitude to both him and his family for his valued contributions to the Planning Board and to the welfare of the Lopatcong Township community. Be it further resolved that the members of the Planning Board of the Township of Lopatcong offer their sincere thanks to Garrett Van Vliet and his family. Be it finally resolved that this resolution shall be recorded and spread upon the official minutes of the Planning Board of the Township of Lopatcong for posterity, and that a copy of the same shall be provided to Garrett Van Vliet. So, Gary's not here tonight, but our chairman, Mr. Sampson, is going to visit him tomorrow and make sure that he gets his honor.
On a personal note, Gary, and his family are going through some tough times, so he could definitely use some positive vibes and some prayers for sure. We should all take a lesson in, his goodwill and, his volunteering for the township for so long. We appreciate that.
He's a good man.
I'm gonna bring the cheesecake tomorrow.
I did go to see him on Sunday.
He told me.
Did he tell you?
Did ya?
He
Yeah.
told me.
Oh, great. great.
Yeah, he was in good spirits. He was good.
Very nice.
And he's feeling well?
Sweetheart. Pardon?
Did he hurt anything with his fall, or is he feeling well?
We didn't get into that. He's in physical therapy now.
Okay.
And he's doing so many steps in and kind of increasing them as the days go on. So, but he was in good spirits.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is really.
My good friend. Okay, so next up we have the ordinance to amend chapter 243, entitled zoning ordinance to revise non-conforming structure.
Chairman, this is an informal recommendation to the governing body for a zoning ordinance change. As you know, our zoning officer is now part of the board. And one of the problems that the zoning officer faced was that he would have residential structures that wanted to expand but were non-conforming as to side yards. And the way that the current ordinance reads, any expansion would basically be a variance. The way that it is traditionally handled through other municipalities and other places is that if you want to do an expansion that will not intensify the pre-existing nonconformity, you would be able to do that, like let's say you want to put it on an addition to your back part of your property, and you had a front yard nonconformity, you'd be able to do that without a variance. That's what this ordinance is drafted to try to address, so that the zoning officer himself can say, you're not intensifying a non-conforming condition. You're doing an addition in a yard and otherwise complies with zoning. You're a 1 or 2 family house, you ought to be able to do that without coming to the board. It's designed to try and streamline things for residents, not commercial properties.
This is just residents.
It's just 1 single and 2 family residence. The language, of course, is completely negotiable. It's just draft language. I just put it out there. If George obviously has any issues, please feel free. If Adam, of course, if our zoning officer does, he will speak up. I tried to draft it as broadly as possible so that our zoning officer could go out and say to a resident, yeah, you're not creating a worse variance condition. You can do what you need to do, just to make it easier for the residents.
Does everybody understand that?
And the language, and again, this is just a draft to suggest to the governing body. They don't have to act on it. It's just a recommendation to them. There's no formal action that even needs to be taken, except to say, yeah, we recommend it.
Okay, so maybe we should take a roll call vote to recommend it.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about the language, you're more than welcome to. If you want to hear from, because I kind of threw this at you at the last minute. You may want to take a look at the language and see if it, I'm squeaking over here, comports with what you think that it ought to.
One thing. What the resolution is trying to correct is this one sentence in the current ordinance, which is under 24360A1. The standard there starts out, a non-conforming structure shall not be altered unless such alteration would tend to reduce the degree of nonconformity. That one sentence makes anyone coming into the zoning office, whether the addition is conforming to setbacks or not, he would have to come before this for a variance, because almost no one's application makes a pre-existing nonconformity less nonconforming. And what this is trying to correct is that one requirement, and I think it does. And I think it would reduce a lot of pain for the individual homeowners in town to come before the board to get variances for something that technically meets all our side yard setbacks and does not make the home more non-conforming. So I think it's a good thing. It should take some pressure off of some of the homeowners, and I don't think it'll have a serious impact on the quality of construction or anything like that in the township.
Okay.
I have a question, Bob. I'm gonna use my house for a second, okay? My house is close to the road, all right, so my setback is my yard and everything behind me and to the side of me. All right, if I wanted to put a deck around my house, all right, and if it's not, I do have to be non-conforming, this would eliminate that?
Yes, well, it depends
I'm
on where
making
your
it up,
deck
just
is.
using mine, because I
If
use
you're gonna be putting a deck into another side yard,
Well, it's my whole property, is what I'm asking you, is how does it work, is what I'm asking, I guess maybe this is all.
all right, so imagine your building envelope.
Understand what I'm getting at.
All right, so Brian, I'm just gonna, it's kind of informal. Let's say this is your lot.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And let's say this is under the ordinance, your building envelope in between.
Okay.
And let's say your house is situated like this. I'm gonna put an X through it.
That's fair. That's
So your house is obviously violating front and side yard
what mine
setbacks.
does.
And you wanted to put a deck back here,
Right.
or an addition back here,
Yeah, some kind of building structure.
which does not increase the nonconformity of the front or side yard.
That's what I want.
That's exactly right. You'd be allowed to do that in the building envelope.
Okay, that's what I
Put a
want.
front porch,
But if you,
if
Yeah,
you're gonna make that front yard lesser, then you'd have to get
Then you have
variance.
to do it.
that's right.
Okay.
Or if what you were proposing to do increased your impervious coverage permissions above what is allowed, you'd still need a variance.
Understood. I got you now.
Yep. What it's trying to do is saying, if you're not increasing the pre-existing nonconformities,
Then you're okay.
you're okay. You do it in the back, you're okay. If you otherwise comply, you're good. And you don't have to spend the money to come to this board.
What would make something non-conforming? The age of or people getting variances at the time when they built the house? Would that be a non-conforming thing that could go back to being okay? Or,
Usually and George, I'm sure, will opine on this, generally, pre-existing non-conforming structures are based upon history. So I'll give you, probably Brian's house. My house was built in the early 1800s. It has basically no front yard because it fronts on a county road. We don't have a front yard setback. It's a long pre-existing zoning, so it's a pre-existing non-conforming condition. Not a pre-existing non-conforming use, but a condition. Most of the houses that I think that you will find were built, at least in Lopatcong, were built at a time when they were lawful. But now subsequent zoning changes have made them, because of yard setback changes or other side yard setback changes, unlawful, but they're pre-existing non-conforming. So if you're in that, even as the lot size, let's say, it's built on a lot, it's pre-existing non-conforming, you'll otherwise comply with the general requirements, but you want to put an addition on, you're not increasing the non-conformity beyond what the ordinance allows, you're okay to do it.
And so, am I right, if this setback was supposed to be, I'm just gonna make it up here, 20 feet back, my house is only 10 feet back, I don't make that criteria. I would have had to come to do anything to my property before. Now, what I believe they're saying is, we're gonna grandfather that in and give me grace on the backside and side or whatever, as long as I don't change that front side.
That's right, and if you
All right.
expanded the front side, let's say laterally, and you're intensifying, you can still need a variance.
Gotcha.
It's only in the basic allowed building envelope, you're allowed to do whatever you want.
More freedom as a homeowner.
Steve, you're not 1,500.
So I'm on.
No, it is a lot of money. I mean, because
Oh, it's awful.
the truth of the matter is, under the legal standards, you have a lawfully pre-existing non-conforming use, it's almost an automatic hardship. So they're coming to the board to basically get a blessing for something that they ought to be allowed to do. And you're just allowing the zoning officer to basically say, yeah, you're not intensifying anything, you're not making anything worse. You ought to be allowed to do that as a homeowner.
Would this translate to an undersized lot?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, unless they're, and George, you can opine as to that.
Yeah, basically the way the ordinance addresses a pre-existing non-conforming, in other words, it was created legally, is we have a clause in the ordinance here that basically says that you're allowed to develop it for the permitted use, provided that you meet the setback standards of the closest zoning district to your lot size. In other words, if today we got you in a 3-acre zone, but you happen to have a 7,500 square foot lot, you would go to the zoning code and look up what the closest lot is to 7,500, and those would be the setbacks you have to meet. All the other standards, impervious cover, you'd still have to meet based on the old code, but you could develop it. You'd be grandfathered in, you could still get a house on it or whatever.
Such a good thing.
All right, so then our action is gonna be to recommend this to the town council, is that the vote?
That's simply it, to recommend it.
Okay. So does somebody wanna make a motion to recommend this ordinance that we, it's got our blessing, we recommend it, to the town council? Does somebody wanna make that motion?
I'll make a motion to recommend it.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Just a question, can Mr. Polito vote because he does sit on the council?
Mhm.
Okay. Members Coyle,
Yes?
Melendez,
Yes.
Polito,
Yes.
Hoy,
Yes.
George,
Yes.
Vice Chairwoman DeLeo,
Yes.
Chairman Sampson,
Yes.
and alternate Ryan.
Yes.
Now, just so you know, if the governing body does choose to act upon it, it will come back to this body for review, for master plan consistency, and go back to the governing body, because that's just the process we have. So you may see it back again if the governing body does choose to act upon it.
Perfect. Somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Oh, no, I need a second.
Oops.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
All against?
Yeah, yeah.
Quick.